Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to go over the grayscale trusts and see if we can find some buying opportunities. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so first, want to go over the portfolio here. It is quite small, as you guys can see. That's because we cashed out of quite a few positions. At one point, I think we had like 8 or 9,000 in these. So this is what the positions currently look like. You guys can see that we have only a little bit of HZEN, but it is down, and ETCG we have $1,200 in this, but it is also down a little bit. So if I'm being completely honest, that's not really surprising. I mean, markets have been kind of wobbly lately. There's been some things that the markets have been witnessing that they don't like rising yields. I think they're waiting for the unemployment data still, which I'm not exactly sure when that's going to come out, but we'll take a look. So what is today? Today is the 4th. So you can see it says this is for a different country. Never mind that. So let's see if I can find some stuff here. So looks like Jolt's job openings were today. You can see the forecast versus the prior. Again, I'm not sure what the result for that was. I'm gonna have to go back and look. It says actual here, but I need to kind of do a little bit more deep dive and see what's going on. So my guess is probably the markets were moving based on job openings. And that's kind of affecting the crypto space. The crypto space is not perfectly correlated with traditional finance, but in some ways it is, especially now that BlackRock and Fidelity and all these other guys are getting involved in crypto. They are starting to become a little intertwined. So the good news is actually that a lot of these cryptocurrencies are actually going up. So we may see a resurgence in these grayscale trusts to the upside here shortly. It just kind of depends on if Bitcoin's going to run or not. But again, these things did come off crazy moves. So it's not really surprising that we're seeing a pullback. So you guys can see this thing went from $4 to $18, then cooled off for a little bit, and then straight up to $55 from $8. So the moves have been absolutely massive. It's not really surprising to me that this is happening and we haven't seen a breakout yet. So if you look over here on the right, you can see what the percentages are for the day. The only things that were really up today was GBAT and Zcash, and it was only a little bit. So pretty much everything else was red or flat in some cases. PhilG was down quite a bit, so that was the biggest loser on the day. But since LTCN was flat, we're not really going to go over that too much today. What I will say on the daily is we are below the EMAs, and it looks like we're trying to get maybe a death cross here. Also kind of on the MACD too, so that is something to point out. If I go over to the monthly time frame, which is something we don't usually look at, but yeah, I mean, there's not really much to show here. So the month is still red. We got 24 days left, but again, that can always change. So there's no clear indication as to what the direction is. What I will say is the monthly EMAs are curling up, and if we get a crossing of those, that's obviously a very bullish sign. So I'm pretty much just going to reiterate the potential scenarios here. So we can either bounce off of these candle lows right here, which is currently sitting at, and go up kind of off the support zone. That's option number one. Option number two would be we break down below the zone, come back and hit this trend line or somewhere around the trend line, which again is roughly about $16, which of course would make sense because there is some candle tops here too sitting at support at 16. And I would say those are the two scenarios in terms of either a dump and a breakout or just simply sitting flat and then breaking out. Targets we're looking for is a swing high, so it's $55. Again, $75 would be the next price point, and then $100 to $135. Reason being is because the swing high up here was pretty much right at the top of the control bar. That's target number one. Target number two is kind of this trading range here. We see all these wicks in the previous bull cycle. That's going to be roughly around $75. I picked $75 because that's kind of where these candle tops are. And then $100 to $135. So I'll give you guys the measured move as of right now, which is basically going to be exactly the same as yesterday. So 113%. Let's see if I can get this exact. We'll just use that. So $74, 189%, and then 291% and 434% respectively. So BCHG, this one was down a little bit. This one I can give you a little more context on. So this red candle here is lower than these ones. Again, we do have 3 more days left in the trading week. So we just got the formation of the MACD death cross on the weekly. There's 2 scenarios here that could play out. Either number one, we simply bounce off of support and then get a break to the upside back to these swing highs up here, or we come down and retest this trend line or support, which again, the trend line and the support is going to range roughly about $5.50 to about $7.50. If it comes down to $5.50, I can tell you all right now, there's a very high likelihood we're going to get back in, because it would just not make sense not to get back in. I mean, we haven't seen those prices in basically since March. So, I mean, that's 3 months of retracement, which in my opinion is a good dip buying opportunity. So that'd be about a 45% move down. Give me just 1 second. I got to plug the computer in here. So, I mean, in order to see us dump down to this next support box, we need to see a red candle close below this current support, which we're just not seeing yet. So swing high at the basically current swing high from the current price would be all the way up here at almost $24. So from the current price to the swing high, you'd be looking at about 128% move. Now, if it gets a drop down into this support, which is roughly about $7 to $8 somewhere in there, the move would be a lot bigger, so 250%. And then all the way down to that macro trend line there would be about 320% move. So HZEN, so we got kind of smacked our heads on the resistance here. It broke out, smacked its head on the resistance, came back down. That's not surprising. It could bounce as low as 466, so I'm just going to throw that out there. That is a possibility. Or it could come down to support. That's 380 to 420. But usually when these things break out, most of the time they do retest. Sometimes they don't, as you guys can see. But if it is going to retest, it would likely retest the trend line first before it does anything else. So from the current price, the swing high would be about a 93% move. Again, the swing high is $10.50. From the trend line to the swing high would be about 125% move. The trend line would be sitting at roughly about 480. And then the bottom of support here, which is about 380, would be all the way up to 180% move. ETCG, this one is interesting to say the least. So there could be, I just noticed this, but there could be some kind of inverse head and shoulders pattern here. That's possible. So we have a shoulder, a head, and then maybe another shoulder that bounces off of this trend line down here. If I were just to measure that out, let's say from the break of the neckline to where the target would be, the move would be pretty big. It'd be $26. In terms of where this thing could bounce, it does look like it wants to go a little bit lower. It's been mostly chopping sideways for a few months I'm guessing, in anticipation of the spot ETF news, which we did get approval, but still no listings on the ticker symbols. So likely it just comes back down, test support or the trend line. So roughly about $12 to $13 somewhere in there. From the support to the swing high, 48% to the inverse head and shoulders pattern target, about 100%. And yes, that is absolutely possible, especially if Bitcoin dominance starts breaking down and we get an alt season. It becomes even more likely that these things are going to have ridiculously parabolic moves. So from the trend line to the swing high, about 55%, and from the trend line to the target of the inverse head and shoulders, roughly about 111% move. ETH, this one's kind of just sitting up here, not doing much of anything. I actually want to look at this on the daily to kind of gauge if we maybe potentially have a bull flag here. This isn't really like textbook bull flag. I'm not going to measure this because it doesn't really spell out to me like, hey, we're in a bull flag. We're in a bull flag. I mean, it could be, sure, but I'd say we need to give it a little bit more time to develop, in my opinion. So as of right now, we do still have some targets we can look at. So golden cross on the MACD and the RSI, that's very good. So we have a cup and handle pattern, which we did get a bullish breakout of. This was, I honestly don't remember what this was for. I think that might have been for the, I really don't know. Maybe it was an inverse head and shoulders pattern. I'm really honestly not sure. So, but whatever the case, I'm going to get rid of this because it doesn't matter. The cup and handle has been confirmed, bullish to the upside. So the target for this one is going to be about $165. So it's a pretty big move. Just from the current price to the swing high up here is 355%. And if it does get a pullback, it likely will probably retest into the support, so about $25, and then a move up to the swing high, 550% move. Now, in terms of conversion, when this thing does eventually convert from a trust to an ETF, I don't know how that's going to work, y'all. You're going to have to do your own research, figure out how that works. We do not own ETH for that reason. We have ETCG instead of ETH because we watched what happened with GBTC and converting from a trust to an ETF and how it no longer became tradable. I don't know if the shares get taken away or if it's cashed out and you'd receive cash back in your account, or I really honestly don't know. You'd have to reach out to them and find out. So PhilG, even though we did have a dump today, this is still a hammer candle, so that's still very bullish. Theoretically, with a hammer candle, this thing likely is going to go higher. As you can see, we got one right here. There was a slight pullback, and then it absolutely took off to the upside. Usually also long wicks are indicative of moves up. So you can see a long wick here and then a move up to here, long wick here and then a move up to here, a couple long wicks here and then a move up to here, and so on. So these are the scenarios, either a continuation to the downside, which we would need to see a break of this level to see basically a bear trend formation, lower lows, lower highs, or a break above this level to see a reversal and a move up into a new bull trend. So as of right now, as of the current price to the swing high, 255% move. If it gets a pullback, it's probably going to pull back into the support right here at about $36 to $40-ish. So from that point all the way up to the high up here at 990%, it could move down into this trend line too, which is at $16. So do keep that in mind. GBAT, this thing's sitting kind of flat. It's sitting on the EMA. So we had a reversal candle here and then a break of the trend line. And now we're just kind of sitting on the EMAs, not doing much. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this one. From the current price to the swing highs is still pretty big. So about 108% move. If it gets a retest of the trend line, which currently is at $10, that would be a pretty substantial pullback. That would put us at about 225%. Just so you all know, the pullback on that would be about 34%. But again, we're in a bull trend, so I think this is not likely to break support at this point, in my opinion, unless we have some kind of black swan event or the Fed cuts rates and the yield curve inverts or something like that. It's very hard to predict what markets are going to do and how they're going to react at this point. But you can see we're building structure levels on the way up. Resistance turns support as of right here, then resistance turns support as of right here. And we have a series of higher highs and higher lows going up. So everything does look bullish as far as I'm concerned. GLIV, same story, higher highs, higher lows. So low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And the question is, does it now become another higher high, or do we sell off? So from the current price to the swing high as of right now, the move would be about 109%. Again, the swing high is at $81. Pullback into the trend line or the EMAs, that would not be that uncommon. So $27 all the way up to $81 would get you about 196% move on GLIV. G-Link, this is a hammer candle as of right now, which is a bullish candle. We'll just have to wait and see this closes on the week. I can just go back in history a little bit and show you guys some instances where hammer candles did end up happening. This is not really a hammer candle, but it is clearly a reversal candle. As you guys can see, we had a wick here, a longer wick, and then a smaller wick, indicating a reversal of the trend. So this is a hammer candle. As you guys can see, it had a massive move up after that. This is a hammer candle. The move up was not immediate, but it did have a big move up. Again, another hammer candle and a big move up. So if it closes as a hammer, likely this thing is going to go higher. Now, if it gets a retest of the trend line, so it'd go from 88 to the highs, 155% move, that's 226. And again, from the current price to the highs, about 62% move. So GSOL might be retesting this trend line. Again, that's at $410. It wouldn't surprise me if this happened, because that usually when a trend is developed, it usually does respect the trend line. So 39% move on that one. GXLM, it does look like we kind of had a bounce or a breakout and a retest. Unfortunately, it did not hold. So likely this thing will probably come back down to $31 would be my guess, because if it broke out and then came back down, as you guys can see before, it did actually kind of not come down exactly to the bottom trend line, but it came close. So somewhere between the trend line and the EMA is about $31 to $33. I'll just measure the lowest to the highest point. So 123% move. Again, the high is up there at $70. GBAT, so no bull flag, or no, not bull flag, hammer candle here, but it is still sitting above the EMA. So that's, in my opinion, bullish. So from the current price to the high is 143% move. If it gets a pullback, likely it pulls back probably to the top of this support zone here. So that's going to be about $20 all the way to the swing high, about 250% move. Again, there's a lot of candle tops here at this support, so I suspect it's probably not going to go lower than that. Zcash, a lot of wicks to the downside, so likely, even though this does look bearish, I think likely it's going to hold above this support at the very least. It might even go up. Time will tell on this one, but as of right now, the current move to the swing high, which again is 10.25, is about 82%. And then if we get a test down to support, which is likely, that would be from $5 to the swing high, which would be 101% move. Anyways, so in terms of the best buying opportunities right now, I would say for LTCN, I would hold off on this one because I'd want to see how it reacts. If I was going to get back into this, I do this one of two ways. Either I would wait for a breakout and basically just I would position trade into this, so I would put a lot of money in immediately at the breakout, or just DCA in, kind of wait for the apex of this move, and then maybe add some more aggressively as it breaks out. BCHG, same thing as LTCN. I think BCHG, in my opinion, is actually a little cheaper than LTCN right now. They're both good buys, but there is a risk of a breakdown. HZEN, I would say, is a pretty good buy right now, but again, there is also a risk of a breakdown. I would be DCAing in to HZEN. I would not buy it like massive amounts all at once. ETCG, we already have this position, so at this point we would just DCA in. There's no confirmation of a breakout, so we would not put a lot in at the moment. ETH, I'd be waiting for a pullback or some kind of bull flag to form. I would not touch this as of right now. PhilG, if this truly is a hammer candle and it breaks back above the EMAs, I would probably position trade this, likely is what I would do, because again, hammer candles are very indicative of upside moves, as you can see here. And even right here, even though these were red hammer candles, the price clearly still went up, as you guys can see. GBAT, I would just simply be adding into this trend line. If this was me, I would not be putting a lot in. Same thing here with GLIV, just basically DCA. G-Link, this already had the breakout, so it's not quite the same thing as PhilG, as you guys can see. If I were actually to move this up like this, you can see that maybe we have an inverse head and shoulders pattern here. So shoulder, head, shoulder. Still want to see a breakout of this one and a confirmation to get in. G-Link, I'd wait for a retest of this one. I wouldn't be buying this one right now. I'd be looking to get in closer to the support. GSOL definitely would not be touching this one because, again, in my opinion, it's just chopping sideways. If it does have a breakdown, the breakdown is going to be huge. GXLM, I'd probably wait for it to get closer to this trend line, then I would get in if I was going to get in. Of course, this is just my opinion. You guys can do what you want. If I was going to get into any of these right now, heavy out of all of these, as of right now, I would say it would be LTCN, BCHG, and Mana. Those are the best looking ones in my opinion. LTCN and BCHG, I already stated why, but Mana, the reason being is because we had this reversal hammer candle right off of support, and then it came back, retested, hit the apex, broke out, closed above the EMAs. Now we're retesting the EMAs. That is, in my opinion, one of the most bullish setups that you could possibly have. Because if we were going to get a breakdown, we would have gotten it right here, but we clearly did not. So this thing does actually look like it wants to go higher. Zcash, this thing has been chopping sideways for so long. I would just DCA day after day after day. If it was me, I would not put a lot in unless I saw a huge crash down to major support. In that case, I would start bulk buying, but with a sideways mover like this, I would just DCA because this is considered to be accumulation. If it is going to break out, this is accumulation right here, kind of like how you guys saw right here, accumulation and then boom. So if it's the same story, this is accumulation and then it breaks out. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.